Hello, Peter. How are you? Oh, you don't have a mic yet. Good. How are you? Good.
Yeah. So, what's the time where you're at? You're in Boulder, Colorado, right?
Yeah, it's 2:15.
Oh,
It's
okay.
2:15 p.m. What is it? Like 8:15 p.m. your time?
Uh, no, here it's 22. It's like 10,
Oh, it's later.
22. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know it was
I
that late.
usually get lost with the AM and PM
Right.
something. Uh, so, have you caught any news that was?
Just what the recent news? I can't keep up with it. There's so much
Yeah, yeah,
going
yeah.
on.
Exactly. It's so much. But have you caught what? Has have you heard about something that you thought like, oh, this was interesting or something like that? It's so much. So,
Well,
but
Trump has been posting a lot of the like the QAnon type of references, which is quite interesting.
yeah,
That those are all kind of resurfacing. I'm like, uh-oh, is all that stuff gonna come true? Who
oh,
knows, right?
yeah, who knows?
Sure hope so.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of we will see. It has been so much, so sometimes it's hard to.
You can't keep up.
Hard, yeah, yeah, it's like impossible.
I think they do it on purpose. They overload the news feed.
Yeah, I think so too. Uh, and I don't know if it's. I cannot figure out why, but probably it is because it's some kind of an advantage for what's coming, I guess.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Well, we have, hi, John. We have them going after Trump consistently. I'm sure John will know a little more what's going on.
Hmm.
Hey, John, how are you?
Good. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're good.
Excellent. How is everybody?
fine.
Good. How are you?
Oh,
Doing pretty good. Pretty good.
that's
It's
good to
always
hear.
it's always something, right? The deep state never ceases to amaze me. It's pretty fascinating. Had a fun little experience that was a new one for me a couple minutes ago, and yeah, I'm kind of curious as to see how this is going to work out. I was on a call trying to assist someone in something they're going through right now, and tried to do a three-way call, and it had a flash on my screen, and it said this is an emergency number, and it was trying to track my location. I was like, what? So I kept hanging up, and I don't know. It was just weird.
What?
Yeah, it was really strange.
Kind of creepy,
Yeah, you
John.
can thank
Hi, Mr.
thank
Mott.
Erickson for that one, right?
Yeah, and Elon is
Eric's son, absolutely.
yeah, and Ericsson is and Elon is counter moving them with emergency numbers these days. Amazingly enough.
You know what, Matt? I'm glad that at least, as far and this is a good, just thought for everybody, as far as emergency preparedness goes, that's why I talk about, the situations that I go through. Listen, if I really had something truly to hide, I wouldn't be having diarrhea mouth like I do, right? Like I would, I would probably be more quiet. But the fact is, like, when it comes to certain things, I want people to be aware. It helps for preparedness, so when we see the writing on the wall with different things of the emergency response and we know Ericsson's involved, how do we react, right? So when situations come about and all of a sudden your phone's being pinged and they're trying to track your location, you better immediately end whatever you're doing and take action, right? Because it's just these are the stupid games they play and it's just out of control.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing these days, actually. They are full retard now.
That's a good way of saying it. Full retard. I concur.
I'm
So do I. Full on retard.
all the left-right gatekeepers, aka the orcs in Mordor, are going through the roof right now. As RFK sort of and Trump killed the left-right narrative, psyop, spin, divide and conquer, modus operandi, oligarchy style. They just killed it by saying, well, we don't care about this with left and right, and more or less, we have so much common ground to stand on. Sensible things like, do not, with regards of health, with regards of the autism in one of 34, not one of 22,034 or 122,034, one of 34 when it comes to the kids and so on. So we can see this coming through, that actually reality is more profound than even the poems, so to speak. We can see it coming through, and there is a joint factor. There is like a sphere where the hips meet the other hip, and they sit together, and that's common sense. And also on top, the base case is still it. I'm gonna sound like but it is actually about the children. Not only the children that are being abducted, abused, whatever. Actually, there is a goofy thing, and that's the Zelensky wifey thing, which is connected to the vice president from Swedish Runketorp, Wanke Cottage. Oh my lord. There are some strange things there as well with regards to the Ukrainian children being exported or kidnapped, and there's so much nefarious fucking shit. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, man. One thing I just kind of thought about too that is important to highlight when we hear, dealing with like 5G, for instance, that's a perfect example. So first of all, it's good to know that 5G, just stating it just like that, actually has multiple things as far as meanings. So yes, this is fifth generation warfare. We've heard those terms. There were books, written, blah blah blah. But the key part of that is to be aware that it also is a generational aspect. So we're at a moment in time where history is important. Obviously, you know that. That's why we're doing these spaces, right? And it's important to recognize why it's so incredibly crucial going back, preserving and salvaging the history to protect the future, right? So this is where the past 5 generations and the protection of the future 5 generations now become what can be in one way perceived as 10G or military grade sort of elements of things, right? So like, it's just something to think about and take into context, right? So there's many layers to different things that are going on, yes, but information warfare also has to do with past, present, and future, and our children, our future, and that's why this is so incredibly important. It's not just our children of the now in the schools that they're going through. Yes, it's a massive part of it, but if we aren't aware of the things that happened in our past, we're never going to be able to protect for our future. And we're never going to be able to preserve history in the way that is a layer of protection for the future generations. That's why it's so important that we have a general idea, even of just, our family history, the truth about that, what took place with a lot of these companies like 23andMe and what they've done to manipulate the data, because this is a war on our DNA. Protect your DNA, because this is what they don't want us to know. They don't want us to know the truth about our past. They don't know. They don't want us to hold the keys to be able to protect ourselves, protect our family. And so then you have these mysterious, quote, security breaches, right? It's so weird, like 200 and some like million or whatever it was, social security numbers, were just all of a sudden, I don't know, by somebody somewhere, they just found this info. Okay, yeah, because that's a coincidence, right? It's called your damn government. Okay, they're the criminals. They're the ones who stole your social security number, and they're using it for nefarious shit. So wake up, people, because if you look at the back of that thing, the card literally says this is the property of the Social Security Administration. All you need to know. Anyways, rant over.
As a matter of fact, the government is dependent on whoever prints the money. And that is not the government, strangely enough. That could be something to put in your back pocket for a rainy day. Because if the government is not printing the money, or maybe they are now or preparing to in the US, and by printing I also mean the digital ones, of course, because the main chunk is digital, not paper. Doesn't matter if it's papers or zeros or one in a computer. It's same but different. That is worth thinking about. Then who controls the politics?
Right, the Fed's privately owned. So what is that telling you? This is the public-private partnership that is spoken about. It is very simple. It really is. When you hear about parallel anythings, there's an unincorporated world and then there's an incorporated world. They both appear visually the same. You're never going to be able to look at this world, and there's not two different worlds, literally, like physically. It's the illusion of it, right? That's the deception. And so if you have a layer, like a layer in a cake, that's what we're facing. So it's like, it's not, and I want to add this too, and I'll kind of wrap up that whole part of it, but it's like, don't think that I'm against, business and being successful. No, it's actually quite the opposite. Because we have an unlimited right to contract in and out of anything that we choose. That's our choice. Just as long as we're not doing any harm to anybody. I mean, who can tell us differently, right? So the point is, when you have a commercial organization, quote, privately owned, meaning that it's just not publicly traded on the stock market, which is a joke anyways in and of itself, because anything that's under commercial is under the public charitable trust. which has then converted every man, woman, and child on earth into chattel property, making them commercial objects, not people. So when you live in the unincorporated world, you can contract in and out with the incorporated. Just know your contract, know what you're getting, who you're getting involved in, right? I think that's the thing, like, we should take away with the quote, who, like, I mean, that should be like red flag right there. Like, know who you're dealing with, right? Know your customer, know your people, know your surroundings, and associate with like-minded people. And that's why that's important, because then we can bind together and we can be resources for each other.
Talking about like-minded people, it's amazing to see. Barack Obama, he shared how it started, how it's going 10 years later, and it's still a good look. No real agenda, no real politics, just good looks and smoke and mirrors, whatever. No content. It's like it is like Instagram for idiots. Anyway, 60 million watches that one. I have 30 views on the post that I put up there, which is actually the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And so help me God. Because that's the answer to how it started, how it's going from Barack Obama. For you, Barack, it started with your agreement to accept the merchant of death price with the real investors. And of course, investor as in the investor company and their owners, the real oligarchs, controlling and handing out the Nobel Prize, the one of the largest psyops in human history, and it's for sure the longest psyop ever. And then I will go back to the children again, because of course the first Nobel Prize is handed out to, believe it or not, a private incorporation called the Red Cross, which has a tight cooperation with the Ericsson company since early 20th century. I think they got it 1901, 1902, the very first Nobel Prize. And then some long years later, Barack Obama, after just 9 months of his presidency, receives the Nobel Peace Prize. And then it is war upon war upon war. And he was in, prior to that and prior to his presidency, he was visiting and hanging out with the oligarchy of Sweden. What a coincidence. It is hard to swallow that Barack Obama was run from a deeply entrenched enemy inside the United States, as our dear friend Mr. Donald J. Trump have stated it. And as a matter, just talking about this, X has done a very cool thing. It has inverted, when you are on a PC, it has inverted the microphone. So you have to mute to talk and unmute to be silenced. I think Jenny is going on a PC. So Jenny, please try to speak as you usually do, and you will see that your mic will be turned off.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't recognize I had the microphone.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No problems, Jenny. But if you are on a PC, please.
I'm not.
Are you on
I'm
a
not.
phone? Okay.
Yes.
Then you just mute yourself ordinary. This is a very strange thing that have occurred the latest days. We have a lot of tech troubles, so we could expect that down the road. But if you are running on a PC, it's inverted. So when you have a red microphone, you are speaking, and when you have the white microphone, you are silent. So they twisted it around. That's a nice hack, I think. I think somewhat.
Is that on the PC, Mark?
Yes,
Is that on PC only? Okay.
as far as I know, probably on them if you're running on a Mac as well. I'm not sure about that, but I think we will hear about that. So Barack Obama, he receives this Nobel Prize that is maybe not so noble, you could say, because it is called the Merchant of Death. That is the founder of the Nobel Prize. And this family is being very visible. They are, during the mid 1900th century, weapon brokers, weapon manufacturers, and so on, based in Russia. Believe it or not. And it turns out that the young generation have a lucky streak, you could call it. That's how they put it. They're one of the younger ones in the Nobel family. He was sent to buy forest, lumber, whatever, but instead he just took a turn and bought himself into the Baku oil business at the get-go of it. The strange thing about that is that the Nobel family will be the kings of Russia, so to speak. Even the Tsar called them the kings of Russia because they were the oil kings of Russia from late 19th century and all the way up until the Russian Revolution. The funny thing there is that they are running their business out of Baku, of course. They have, as you know, when you have this enormous amount of money pouring in and so on, they of course build a great mansion just outside Baku, or you had the nice blocks of Baku where Stalin was hanging around actually. So they build a very nice mansion called Villa Petronella. On this one, there is a son is born to a Mr. Hagelin, who is the hired-in CEO for the Nobels to run the oil business. And also the Nobels actually invent the world's first oil tanker. Believe it or not, they changed the whole map of transportation and the oil business with that. And of course, they are early on with the refining of oil and so on. Actually, the world's oldest oil refinery is located on an island in Sweden, in a lake, halfway up north. Strange, isn't it? Well, and that's even older. That people have been taking out oil before that, but and this also changes the whole market for transportation on land. This is very important. This is how things come together. Prior to the oil in Texas and Baku, some few other places, but Baku is 50% plus of the oil at this point, and the Nobel family is on top of it. At the same time, in the last days of the 19th century, they are also inventing the dynamite. That is Alfred Nobel. There is a little bit of a family tragic. They have some explosions and so on. Prior to that one, they were using, I don't know that in English. I should. Nitroglycerin. I think it's actually the same for blowing up things mainly, but that's very unstable. So they have lots of accidents with it, factories blowing up, transportation, and so on. So the dynamite is more or less getting the nitroglycerin in the nitro into a package where it's stable, and boom, you have the dynamite. And that can, of course, be used for, building railroads and so on. But the same compound is, of course, used mainly for weaponry. And the Nobel family, they've been building all kinds of weaponaries and selling them to everybody. But as soon as they had invented these more stable ones, you will be able to kill more people quicker and more efficient. So at this point in time, they have both the oil business controlling that one. They are the kings of merchant kings, you could call them, of Russia. They are having troubles with Stalin, who is doing his social democratic Bolshevik stuff. Protests, he is also, robbing banks and doing kind of nefarious things. Young Stalin, I have some pictures of him. He's a really handsome guy, actually, in his younger days. So there are a couple of love affairs, and but he's charismatic and moving, he will, of course, travel to Stockholm and, together with Lenin, probably Trotsky as well, forth and back. There is a very famous meeting in 1906 in Stockholm, and this is very well documented, even on the communists' own pages, the current communist pages and so on. So all of these people, they know each other one way or the other. And at the same time here, young Boris Hagelin is, just a small kid tumbling around at Villa Petronella in Baku. But he will grow up very quickly. He will go to the right universities and so on. So what will happen is that after the Russian Revolution, they run into some troubles and with who's gonna control the oil and forth and back and so on. You could also say, just as a matter of fact, so we put it, the Rothschilds are involved in the Baku, but they are secondary to the Nobels. So and these are two families that are pretty visible. The Nobel Prize is not really a way of, if it really is what it is, well, it's going to be, as I said, the longest running, largest psyop on our humanity. At least it's the longest runner. If it's the largest one, maybe not, because the largest one might be Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and that will also, of course, connect to the masters of the Nobel family, which is the Wallenbergs. Without them, they would not be able to. All of the success is coming after that. The Wallenbergs is kicking on their bank business and getting them into the right positions and so forth and so on. And of course, they are creative and good businessmen, but they get really boosted by the Wallenbergs. And they also have to do being upfront. So after the Russian Revolution, and also prior to it, actually, the ASEA company starts out with the cryptography, which means that they have their own department. They buy the patent from Mr. Dam, who will later on leave the business. And then I would assume that, knowing what the oligarchs know, the Wallenbergs, they made the move to put the cryptography to a proxy, because they knew that this one was a bit sensitive, and they could not be upfront with everything, because then it would be too easy to understand. So the Nobel family and the Hagelin family, you remember that little Boris was running around in Baku on the oil business, then he goes to the fancy schools in Sweden, and he gets recruited to work at the ASEA cryptography department together with Mr. Dam for some reason. We don't know what reason, but he ended up there. And his father is still in Baku. So after the revolution, the Nobel family goes into the cryptographic business as well, together with the Hagelins. And of course, they receive the largest order for these machines. This is before they are fully developed, but and electronic and so on. But they are a good bit on the way. So that's the starting point for Crypto AG, which is the starting point for the Five Eyes, the CIA, the Gladio project. Everything starts at that moment when the first big order is put to, well, it's not called Crypto AG at that point, but doesn't really matter. So that's the point where the proxy takes this over. The Nobel family gets out of that business because they cannot, the connections are too tight. So the Hagelins will have to front the cryptographic Enigma machine business, and they will do so until it is exposed that the Five Eyes countries and Sweden, of course, have been listening in to everybody through the back doors, especially after the Second World War. During the Second World War, they were pretty much used by the Allies, but also by the Russians. And that will be one of the more significant moments when the Russians discover this, and because the Finnish is, they have the border. This is very actual now. They have been, listening into the radio telegraphy in the Soviet Union, and also on the telephone lines, because the only telephone system existing in Russia at that time is put there by Ericsson. Wow! You could not believe it. So, of course, they have a backdoor to listen into that one as well. It is amazing, and that was the Tsar that let them in. At the at the beginning of the 20th century, the city of St. Petersburg is growing very rapidly, but there are two languages spoken in it: Swedish and Russian. There are pretty much Ericsson have a very big company there, 3, 4, 5,000 employees that are manufacturing phones and switchboards and all of these kind of things they do. And of course, you can listen in. The Nobel family, they have several blocks of factories of all kinds. They have their own school, they have their own system. It's like a closed loop thing, which has been tested in Sweden before. You remember me talking about the test of how to run a country, but in a smaller scale. They are doing the same thing there. And those kind of, that's a privately owned business, but they have sort of their own money, their own law, their own everything with inside that framework where it's schools, hospital, everything. They provide it all. It's like a all-inclusive trip to if you are a worker there. You are put into a closed loop. So that's tested hundreds of years before in Sweden, actually, locally at some places, actually. So after that,
Hey, Matt, real quick, can I add something?
Yes.
So a good friend of ours that collaborates on a lot of different efforts, HBO Detectives in the chat. Joe, I don't know if you can hear me. If you get a chance to pop up and just add a little input. He was actually, I don't know if you're very familiar with like the fusion centers, but I'm not going to go real far into depth with that. But there's a big element there with the communication aspect. And sorry to put you on the spot like that, by the way, but that's just how I roll. But yeah, and so it's really interesting though because I just got an email today about another FBI weaponized hit piece against the American people in regards to the Constitution and the Second Amendment, specifically deeming us extremists because we talk about 2A or we talk about gun rights. And then they took it a step further, and not only just talking about it, you're labeled an extremist with their red flag laws, but if you're a gun owner at all whatsoever, you're put on the list also. You're automatically deemed an extremist. If you've ever bought ammunition, you're an extremist, according to the FBI. Well, that's just fantastic, right? But yeah, it's pretty fascinating though because the fusion centers are directly connected to the FBI.
Amazing.
Hey, Joe, thanks for coming in, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, so really interesting that all started. I believe that started at least in Boston in the early '90s, right around '91, '92. Um, they had let a whole bunch of people out of jail, a bunch of the gang members, and it was a really crazy time. Boston was probably at one of the most violent points it's been in its history during that time.
Joe,
So,
real quick, just
yep.
let everybody know just a little bit about your background and why you're familiar with the fusion center specifically.
Yeah, so I was in law enforcement back from '86 to about '98, and I transferred to Boston in the early '90s, right around '91. And at that time, like I said, there was a lot of stuff going on. So I wanted to be, put in the detective unit. So I got involved with a lot of that anti-crime stuff. And one of the things they were doing is the gangs were taking control of the city. We couldn't stop them because they were coming in from outside of the city, and they were making that law enforcement look really bad. So the FBI and a whole bunch of the agencies got together, and I believe that was kind of the start of the fusion centers, where we were all kind of meeting together and pooling intelligence, and that was kind of the start of it. And it was really effective. We were literally able to take down most of those groups pretty quickly, but it was quickly taken over by the feds, as usually everything typically is. And Mueller was the U.S. attorney in Boston at the time, and yeah, there's a whole story around that. That actually, John and I are going to be doing a space pretty soon. I'm actually I was a whistleblower for law enforcement. I turned in a corrupt administration in 95, 96, and they tried to take me out. And I got some of the story out, but I wasn't able to get all out. So we're actually going to do a space in the next few days to get some of that out, because I actually was undercover trying to take down Whitey Bulger's gun running operation to the Irish Republican Army at the same time, right around that time, and pretty interesting stuff that hasn't made it out to the mainstream.
Thanks, Joe, for coming up. I
It
appreciate
sure
you, buddy.
does sound interesting.
Yeah, it's a heck of a story, and quite frankly, it is an absolute miracle that Joe and I are even communicating with each other. I had an axe to grind, so to say, right? But yeah, no, it's unbelievable, and I'm not trying to show the space, but I'm going to show the space for a minute, because I mean, it really is important in context of our fight, right, and coming together in unity, and all of these different elements and pieces of the puzzle. If we're willing to open up our minds and allow the truth to come in, we're going to be able to combat this, number one, but we're also going to be able to eliminate a lot of the elements internally as well as externally, know what to prepare for so they don't come in and infiltrate, right? But guess what? All ties us in. The communications. It all has to do with communications, and everything in this digital era is pretty much owned, controlled, scraped, and harvested by whom, Mott?
Yeah, exactly. But could you please, for the audience, describe these centers,
Fusion
fusion
centers.
centers? Yes, because I think there's many Swedes that are listening in right now as well, and they don't have a clue right now. So please go ahead and give a, or John, whoever, but.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Like I said, it was a long time ago, but basically what it was all the interagencies. Like in law enforcement, a lot of people don't know this. There's a lot of you know there's a lot of jockeying for position and jurisdiction and everything. Boston and Massachusetts is really unique because the politicians are so corrupt that they create their own police departments.
And it's a commonwealth, which is
Yeah.
important too.
Yep, absolutely. So what you have running around, you had oh my God, you had the local police, you had the state police, you had the transit police, you had municipal, the court. You literally had all these police agencies, all funded by different politician groups, and all kind of had police powers all over. I worked for the Massachusetts Transit Department at the time, and we had police powers, statewide police powers for all Massachusetts, because the train ran through every city and town. So basically, I was actually on the executive board. I was the vice president of our union. We were supposed to be merging with the state police at that time, and so basically, with the agencies came together. The feds kind of started it, but they brought the local, the state, all these agencies together to try to stop the gang violence and gather intel. So what we did was
Joe,
just,
real quick, let me
yeah,
sorry to interrupt. I just want to interject. So, just for context, so everybody's aware, what Joe said is really important in the federal overreach. Okay, so this is how the infiltration and literally the hijacking and usurpation of a state and the separation of the state comes in, because the state police at that point in time, even at that point in time, back in the 80s, were all federally captured. So the state of state organization known as the state of Massachusetts is the federal arm. Okay, if that makes sense. That's the federal sort of binder or bridge, so to say, between the federal government and the state. And so when they refer to themselves as that, now the state police are under federal jurisdiction. So I just want to add that point. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. And the other thing that I got to add for context too, because most people either forgot about this or don't know this, but Whitey Bulger was the crime boss of pretty much Boston and Massachusetts at that time. His brother
And that was
was,
Irish, correct?
Irish, yep, Irish mob. But his brother was the Speaker of the House. So you want to talk about a conflict. His brother was the most powerful politician in Boston at the time, and he was the biggest crime boss. And the crime was just running amok. The gangs were running amok. The organized crime, everything was just crazy.
I wonder
And
if Biden may have been possibly connected, Joe.
I wouldn't be surprised because Mueller was the state attorney at that time, the U.S. attorney at that time, and all those characters were running around, pretty much doing what they want. And I'll tell more about that story, but later. But the fusion centers, the starting point was to share intelligence, but that was so that the feds could scrape it. In my opinion, that's kind of what happened. They take over everything. They come in and they push everybody around. Even if you have jurisdiction over where the crime scene is, they come in and push everybody around. They weren't very liked, but
So, Joe, more or less, let's break this down real quick. So, you have separate jurisdictions, right? So, you have now the Pinkertons, sorry, the transit police, right? And then you have the. I'm going back now. That's a little historical plug for me. But yeah, so you have the transit, right? And then you have the jurisdiction, like a physical jurisdiction. So you have the separation of the different municipalities, the cities, the counties, so on and so forth. And the whole premise of and correct me if I'm wrong, but the fusion center was to have these separate jurisdictions be able to communicate with each other with intel. Is that correct?
yeah, 100%. Share the intel so that we know what's going on and get a better. I'll get the whole picture because without the whole picture, you can't. When these gangs are going cross border, you can't disrupt them if you don't know. If you don't identify who they are and what their operations are.
Right. So now you can, I mean, for context, everybody can see where this is kind of going, right? Because now you already have a federally captured entity and which is in direct international jurisdiction now. International. Why? Because federal level has international commercial communications with everything and everyone. And it's literally all connected. And when then you collaborate with local municipalities, it is literally the complete overtaking of data, information, collecting, harvesting, and they're doing it through these back doors and quote legal entryways of which is quite frankly overreach and they don't inform anybody about it. It's just the fusion centers and the inception of them was like, in my opinion, one of probably the most intrusive elements of the three-letter agencies that took place. And they had, they just call it a fusion center now, but don't be mistaken. This was no different in World War II. And you guys did a lot of spaces, obviously, with the colonel. But it's like this is what they do. There's pockets, there's organizations, there's groups. Here's the shell game. It's the ball in the cup and move the cup around and find the ball, right? Because they just change their names and this is the shell game.
Well, it gets worse, John, because what happens when you have the when you're fighting over jurisdiction, these people can come in and push people around. But here's what a lot of people don't know. People think, oh, the law enforcement, they can go out and investigate whatever they want. As a detective, I had to get clearance for anything. If I ran across something, you have to get clearance to investigate it. So they could shut down any investigation they want really quickly. And when you put the fusion centers together and have the outreach or overreach of all these organizations, you could shut down organizational investigations anywhere you want with a phone call, and
The,
that's where the corruption really takes off.
that,
Exactly. And so, oh, go ahead, Bob.
that's how you create the police state, the totalitarian one. This is you just need to scale it up, and then you are suddenly at, believe it or not, now we are getting there. So Boris Hagelin, the crypto AG, the Wallenberg Ericsson proxy, he during his, let's say, during the upstarts, you could say, he travels to be in the middle of this. Suddenly, he's 1 year, he's an oil man. Believe it or not, but that's not what he is. He goes to work for Rockefeller in New Jersey, but what actually happens is that he will meet Mr. Friedman, the long-time standing NSA boss, and they make a deal that will later on come in play. So this is even before they are really, up and running on a big scale. That takes us very quickly, because the back doors of these machines will be the basis for listening in to everybody, collecting the intelligence, just as the fusion thing, center thing, where the well, let's say the guys who has the darkest sunglasses or the darkest suits or the most well polished shoes or the widest tie, I don't know what we're gonna call them. They can go in and disrupt and push things the way that they want to. So if you scale this up on a more or less on a global scale, it works exactly the same. So what will happen, and now we just fast forward to the NSA, we listen in to the American citizens through the social media service server farms and so on and so forth in Sweden, on Swedish soil. And because Ericsson is running more or less, the cables across the world, or at least the technology, the back-end technology, they are not always the ones that put down the cables, but they have put down lots of these Atlantic cables or Pacific Ocean cables and land-based, So this is what it's all about. This is what Edward Snowden is blowing the whistle on. He's just saying that they are listening in and they are doing it.
Hey, Matt, and I want to add something real quick too. So there are 5 main national fusion centers in the United States of America, and one of them happens to be, well, yes, in Boston, the one Joe was referring to, which I do believe. I would have to go back and definitively get verification on it, but I believe it was the original setup of it. But anyways, the one of the other main 5 national ones is actually in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's important, okay? Because when you're dealing with what we've recently experienced over the last few years, let's just say, I don't know, November 5th, 2020 sort of thing, dealing with a presidential ambush of an elected leader, and you have Dominion coming into place with scraping of data, collecting, harvesting, changing, manipulating, so on and so forth. Come to find out that the Fusion Center in Milwaukee, which is in direct connection and collaboration with the FBI office in Milwaukee, by the way, also was in communication efforts with a company that was very, very well known to be doing some sort of data collection during that time of the election. And I find that's very interesting, don't you? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you aware of any company that was like, I don't know, maybe like British or connected overseas that was maybe in a Boston or Massachusetts area? Joe, are you familiar with anything?
Like Leonardo.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, yeah, that's part of it. I didn't even think about that, but so yeah, well, hang on. I'll put something in the pill for context, but there were companies involved that were using data of people through their cell phones to scrape data of their interest, right?
Cambridge Analytica, John.
Thank you. You got it, buddy.
Oh,
So,
those guys. Yeah. Okay.
yes.
Continue. Yeah.
Yeah. So Cambridge Analytica and the National Fusion Center were in direct communication during the election, and they were definitely colluding. And that is massive, massive, massive. Now, interestingly enough, if you hear the speeches, you listen to Trump and what he says in different ways, he brings up terms, words, right? Hot point items. Jazz happens to be one of them. Just so happens to be 3.3 blocks away from the Fusion Center, by the way. There happens to be a park called Jazz in the Park. And that's very interesting for a lot of things too, but the point I'm getting at ultimately is there's a very intentive reason and purpose why, which by the way, a block and a half away is where the Republican convention was from the Jazz in the Park, and then also 3.3 blocks away from the National Fusion Center. I wonder if that was strategically done. So you have now the national convention taking place. Literally, I mean, they're like on top. Like he was on top of this fusion center, the FBI location, and like it is hilarious. I'm just like, yeah, I am not going within a 50-mile radius of anything that's going on down there because it was a hotbed. I mean, a hotbed. And so it's really, really fascinating, though, because it's like it's good for peace of mind and context because of all these things we're bringing up, right? And thank you so much, by the way. These were just really super important parts because, you know, we got to make these connections as far as the overreach and the scraping of our data and how they nefariously use these tools and tactics to funnel our thoughts into a presidential election, which then obviously you guys are very well aware of how that affects everybody else throughout the world. It's absolutely crazy. But yeah, Cambridge Analytica and the fusion centers had a big role to play. So I wanted to add that. But thank you.
Thank you, Jan. And talking about putting on top, as you mentioned, well, it just happens that a small entity that came out of nowhere called Space Force was put on top of the Ericsson company prior to the election in 2019. And then you have the Leonardo situation, which comes out of that actually there was a shootout and people were killed on American premises in Germany. Very shut down, not too much information about that, but it was like CIA against CIA shooting at each
Yeah,
other.
that's Matt. Do you remember the servers that was? Oh man, that was so.
Collected
There's yeah,
from the CIA safe house by the
yep, exactly.
CIA. Or
You got it.
somebody
That's what that
looking
was
like
about.
the CIA or operating like the
Right.
CIA.
Yeah, but that's what that was about because it was they actually it was the servers in Germany that they were collecting that from.
Yeah. And some of the people working in that exact building and some people at the Leonardo SPA, meaning Inc., that's Italian for incorporated, they ran into some trouble. There were some whistleblowers were silent down yet again. But the X-37Bs, you know, the ones that just floats around in space autonomously, no pilots and so on. They were busy bees because there were satellites taken out. And not what satellites you could just guess. Well, it was the Ericsson company's satellites because they were connecting to the Leonardo that for some reason collected and sent back also the voting data from the United States. Why it had to go through Italy and back? Well, I don't know. And Leonardo SPA or parts of it are very suspected it is, but this has been it didn't vanish, but it just went silent.
I'm sure Rome has absolutely nothing to do with anything here.
Or the military industrial complex, or well, the nefarious side of the CIA ops or whatever. Of course, do not forget that Italy has been a hub for the American intelligence services for a long, long time. So, and this is where I have a problem with the colonel, because she claims that she'd been working in Italy in the U.S. Air Force intelligence department, whatever, during the most very active time on the Gladio operations, and discovered them after she is retired, many years after the 1990s when she was there. Then she suddenly realizes that she were involved in something nefarious and so on. If we were in Italy, if you were an American, you and had, a little bit more than just a driver, or the you would have known about this. So that makes that a little bit suspicious as well. And so we had a fallout, you could call it, because she was not telling the straight story about crypto AG on purpose or from lacking knowledge. I don't know, but she didn't like to be corrected on the crypto AG, so it went sideways, pretty heavy actually. Doesn't really matter. I would not tell one way or the other, but at least she has brought up all the good books that people have been writing about this, and so forth. So that is a good thing. So here we have the X-37Bs flying around for years, actually. The longest mission I have posted, I'll see if I can find that post. I have still problems with X, actually. Let's see if we can find it. X-37. I can't find my own posts. This is so frustrating. I even have to search for my own posts with Grok.
That's actually a really good idea. Thanks for bringing that up.
But he is a bit reluctant, actually. But sooner or later, there will come, when he shows the post there, even if he says, I can't find any post or from us in Osgatan with that and that. And I said, well, you did. Good boy. And he said, oh, thank you.
The very first thing I said to Grok, I was like, all right, if I'm going to use this stupid thing and if I'm going to pay for this, I'm like, you're going to be an honest, upright thing. So I said, Grok, out of anything, remember this. First, do no harm to any man, woman, or child. And he said, I will do my best to honor that requirement. Human, thank you. And I was like, you're welcome. Now let's roll. But I made it very clear what my intentions were. Also, that was the quick synopsis of what I said to it. But I was very, very specific in what I want and don't want him to do. Oh, Matt, something that might help also for searchability. I've been doing this for a while too. Is if you have anything with images or videos, make sure you're putting a description in the image, and it will be not only searchable on X, but on your profile as well.
Okay.
So it's called. It should say alt, ALT. It's an alt tag or an alt description for your image. and you can embed that in, and it'll make it searchable then. And also, for anybody too, and yeah, I'm the guy who reads the encyclopedia sort of thing, but because the algorithm is so wonky at times, and they like to change things and flag other things, when you save images, use something similar, like a description that you're going to use posting on X as well, because it's embedded into the picture or the video or whatever. So just little things to help, because this really is annoying and frustrating.
Yeah, it really is when you have so many posts. I probably have it somewhere in my bookmarks, but I can't find it. Simple as that. But coming to that and discussing a little bit around, I'll see if I can put them out. It's quite interesting. Quite interesting moves, actually. And these days, Elon is deeply involved in getting them up and running, or up in the sky or space to get them moving. But talking about flying and rockets and bombs and Obama, he just as Joe Biden got the second honorary citizen of the United States to be Raoul Wallenberg. The first one was the Pearl Harbor man, meaning Winston Churchill. And there are 8 in total. That is sort of, the Nobel Prize of the United States is the honorary citizenship, which is just a few. Lise Meitner did never receive the Nobel Prize, but she was paid for life by the Nobel Prize committee, the Nobel Prize organization. That's the Wallenberg lady who supplied the Manhattan Project with the trigger for the nuclear weapon because they didn't have it. So we can make it clear that the Swedish oligarchy had the trigger for the nuclear weapon, and they were in a hurry to get the Manhattan Project.
So
finished.
another good point, Matt, is if anybody isn't aware, so Obama was a bar attorney. The importance and the connection to that is based on what role not just Chicago but Illinois has to do with a lot of things, and he's obviously from the Chicago area, but that is also where the American Bar Association is headquartered. That is a wildly important piece to all of this. So think of it in the place of, if you have a system of control, who wrote those laws? There was one system. Who wrote those laws? The Templar Bar was in charge of that. So you have two factions of that. You have the International Bar Association, which, by the way, is now completely dissolved. And then you have the American Bar Association. So the role of the American Bar Association, the ABA, headquartered in Chicago, probably, I would assume, maybe, being a club member, Obama may have wrote a couple things in a couple pieces of paper at some point in time. I don't know, like the Obamacare Act, which happened to be over 4,000 pages of gobbledygook built in and embedded into entire healthcare system. I'm just throwing that out there. It literally was so deep. They had a team of over 100 people dissecting this in a crazy like rabbit hole of just like connections to every element outside of healthcare. Not like you think, oh, well, Obamacare is just health related. Nope, it literally ties in everything dealing with HHS, the DoD, the complete administrative overreach of everything. I mean, it gave them essentially unlimited powers to mandate, dictate, and then boom, they usher in patents between 2012 and 2014. 2014 is really, really important for the genocide democide sort of thing that broke loose around the 2020, 2021 timeframe, and it all plays a role. So, just keep in mind that Obama was a bar attorney. So was Billary and other people. And it's kind of fascinating if you think about it that, oh, all these people happen to be bar attorneys and they're part of the club. Yeah, that is the club. And they write the laws. And this is where everything just gets completely captured.
Was it with Obamacare, John?
Well,
Is when it kind of overreached?
oh, yeah, absolutely. Obamacare was responsible for. So I've talked briefly about like two Supreme Court rulings that have been overturned in the last few years. One of them happens to be Virginia v. EPA, and the other one has to deal with Roe v. Wade. And those are massive. What right? And actually, the Chevron case recently just instilled the powers that were removed, specifically by naming these administrative agencies, not only deeming them as non-governmental, but they have zero power and control over the people in the states. And so this is what was really done in an underhanded manner, removing the powers from the people as far as consent is concerned. It removed the element of consent in a contractual form through Obamacare. It gave unlimited powers to these administrative entities to have complete federal overreach of the states. And once again, tying back into the fusion centers, if you're going to have a quote peaking into, I don't know, the looking glass of sorts into, hey, if I want to stop this group and this, that, and the other. And once again, exactly why I brought up the FBI hit piece that was recently released this week. Anybody who even is a gun owner or has bought ammunition, it all goes back to the fusion center, which then is federally done. And you could see how this literally is completely intertwined. But the bar is what essentially is in control, and then it all comes back even on a financial level. It makes a circle and it goes back to the bar because they have power of attorney and they control and are supposed to be in control, or not control, but in a job sort of status standpoint. They're supposed to be in charge of the distribution of funding. Weird how that may play a role into the DoD of things, and I don't know, a ship that got caught in a canal, and Bitcoin, and all sorts of fun stuff. Oh, wait, is the Clinton Foundation a part of that? I don't know. Was Obama and the Clintons possibly colluding in some sort of nefarious activities? It's crazy.
It sure is crazy. That the HIPAA law went right out the window, correct? At that point?
Yeah, yeah. Hippo. I mean, we're just like in the swamp with, it's like there's nothing. It's been a complete capture. This is the legal law world is what is called usurpation. They've usurped every element of informed consent. Um, it removes all of this. This is why they're so blatant and have a disregard for everything, because number one, did they tell anybody that they changed the laws? No, we're stupid. We're supposed to know. Oh, okay. I didn't realize I consented to that. You know, you can see where this is going,
Uh,
and they just strip all this away.
it's like when you know when you go to a new web page or whatever, you know, you need to consent or whatever. I mean, we are lazy, so we just, you know, push the bottom instead of digging into it. um, with that said, I put the video up in the Jumbotron, and I think I'm actually gonna play it. It's a 3-minute video, so you have to bear with the sound. The video is up there. It's the uh, one with the Obama syndrome from Sweden, and it's a short one, so you can share it to almost anybody. But it tells, in very short, the story of Obama. The bar is not in there specifically, but they are all almost there, and they are all on the same typical scholarships and so on. That's how you catch them up or
Hey, Matt,
read
real
them.
quick, Joe had his hand up. I didn't know if you wanted to add something. Can we just get to him quick?
Yeah. Of course. Sorry, I didn't see the hand.
No, that's okay. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, just want to add real quick for the people that don't know that the bar attorneys are the ones that determine what investigations go forward. So that's how they capture the local, the state, and the law enforcement, because you have to talk to the district attorney or the state's attorney or federal attorney before you can continue an investigation. So if that club doesn't want something investigated, it does not get investigated. Just wanted to add that.
That's a great point. Very
Yeah.
good. Awesome. Thanks, Joe.
Yes.
Matt, also the coin, you know, the handing off of the coin, that was done with oh God, what's his name?
Biden?
The old VP, Trump's oh shit, what's his name?
Pence.
Pence?
Pence, thank you. Yeah, so you remember the handoff that took place before him and Pelosi bumped elbows during January 6th? The coin that was passed off? Yeah, that's the club coin.
Yes.
That's the club coin. So once again, this is the hidden hand of secrecy that they use. Okay, the medallions around the neck. Okay, it all has meaning. Whether it's a handshake, a coin passing, a ribbon ceremony, it's all tied together.
Wait until you hear Obama's Nobel speech. We will get to that. But prior to that, a short repetition about Obama from Mr. Snakebore, a friend of ours back here in Sweden. It's a quickie and it's a good one. So turn up the volume. Okay, we might have some sound problems here. Let's try it again. Let's see if we can make it work. Jon, you have to give me a shout out if you don't have a Obama video in your ears. And we go from here.
Yep, I got nothing, Matt.
No sound?
Did No sound. Are you trying to play the video that Snakemore put together?
Yeah, I have it 350.
Yeah, do it.
But
I can play. I can pull it up and play it if you want. Just let me know.
yeah, give me 2 seconds. I will sort out this. I got this kind of sound. Let's see. I think I know what. I think I know. I think I know.
I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. I think.
Yeah, I will fix it, and I'm just gonna try to remember. There are many options here. So 2 seconds and we go again. Let's see if it works this time. It can have to do something with the microphone here as well. Now when the X has done this, but you should not. So let's go from the start again. Let's hope and pray. It's a good one. Any sound, John?
Nothing.
Okay.
Not a ting.
We'll fix.
Yeah, if you want me to, I got it pulled up. If you want me to play it, just let me know.
It's okay. There was not that much to choose from. I needed to remember here because I think we will have success this time, actually. Okay, one more time. Do a 5-second test first, and if it works, we.
I love the tenacity.
Nothing?
Nothing. I got it. Just let me play it, Matt. I got it pulled up right here.
Yeah, pull it up.
All right. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for your patience. We appreciate it. Please repost and share the space with your friends, your family, your loved ones, and anybody who needs to know about corruption. And here is the Black Merchant of Death himself.
Barack Hussein Obama, the man many hoped would be the peace president when he was elected, bombed 7 countries only during his first 6 years in office. Mr. Obama was elected in 2009 partly of his opposition to the Iraq War and was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize after he assumed office. The arguably optimistic decision taken by the Norwegian Nobel Committee was taken just 9 months into his presidency. We would, of course, argue that the so-called Peace Prize is nothing more than a mechanism for control of public perception. It's really at this point only a matter of looking at its list of recipients over the years, and you can quite easily see that it's not at all about promoting peace. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Obama's famous A New Beginning speech in Cairo saw the president declare he was seeking a fresh start between the United States and Muslims around the world, increasing hopes he would be the antidote to George W. Bush's controversial term. The Bureau of Investigative Journalism, BIJ, estimates the Obama administration had launched more than 390 drone strikes in 5 years across Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia, 8 times as many approved during the entire Bush presidency. Afghan President Hamid Karzai used his farewell speech to rally against US strikes one last time. Mr. Karzai, the only president Afghanistan had had since the US-led invasion in 2001, said Washington had wanted war in Afghanistan because of its own interests. The war in Afghanistan is to the benefit of foreigners, he said in his address, but Afghans on both sides are the sacrificial lambs and victims. To list all the horrific acts committed under Obama's presidency would take quite a long time, and we have to keep this brief. In summary, since Obama received the so-called Peace Prize, he proceeded to bomb Afghanistan, Pakistan, Libya, Yemen, Somalia, Iraq, and Syria. His so-called scandal-free presidency is probably only a matter of what the public actually has learned so far. Public opinion was still very much controlled by the so-called war on terror, and the people didn't see what was really going on. Let's just say that there are way more than just skeletons in Obama's closet, and his hidden homosexuality will be the least of his problems. Ask yourself this: who knew where the bodies were buried? Well, who directed national intelligence under Obama? What did the deep state do to him? What exactly is Donald Trump a threat to? The swamp is deep and wide and old. What has to happen in order for the public to understand just how corrupt the entire system is? They have to see it for themselves. One might even say the future will prove the past.
Boom.
Wow, well done, Snakemore. Very,
Yeah.
very well
So
done.
good.
Yeah, and it's short, sweet, and simple. You know, so it's the series he has, but this one is of course available on YouTube as well. But the series with those like 15 minutes to 20 minutes, they are really. But you will easily find him on YouTube there. So I think that's the link underneath that one. So considering that you get the Peace Prize from your boss and then you go and get rid of tons of bombs on these poor countries, that's the Peace Prize. I mean, come on, it should be obvious, but
Matt, do you remember? Do you remember the video on here that Obama was referring to us and how we must submit to the quote almighty sovereign? Do you remember that video that Obama was quoted?
Yeah.
So just to kind of quickly give a little context of why the medallions and the bar, the Crown Templar bar, by the way, is so much of a really like deeply entrenched element into the government and the White House and all of this, right, leading to then inevitably Obama, is because there are secret orders that are enshrined and built into the element of the government itself. Think of it as like layers on an elevator or levels on going up and down the elevator. And if you would go to the deepest part of this elevator shaft, you would get to the Muslim Brotherhood, which Obama is a part of. And so the Brotherhood is a really big piece of this element too, of full control of submittal. Now, that almighty sovereign that he was in reference to was specifically what's known as state sovereignty. But the key piece about that is there are big elements that they use deceptive sort of means of their wording, right? Cleverly put it before, after pronouns. Here we go. And to be sovereign is to be sovereign. That's it. Men, women, children, we're sovereign. We're born that way. Okay, whatever you decide to attach and consent to is whatever. But when you have the words in front of it, right? So like now it's like state sovereignty. This is the police state that we were talking about, Mom. This is full control. This is complete totalitarian, private in public interest sort of way overreach. And this was their gateway in. Okay, so because now you have a president who was, a very, let's say, high-ranking club member of the bar, right, and the Brotherhood, and all of these deeply entrenched elements, now you tie in the coins. Now you start to piece who's pulling strings on a public stage, but it has to be shown. They're showing you what they're doing. It's not meant to be hidden. You're just not supposed to know the meaning behind it. That's the secrecy. So it's the cloak and dagger, the black robe, the the blindfold on the lady, what the hell is it
Lady
called, the law.
Justice. Lady Justice.
Yeah, Lady Justice. Yeah. But the irony behind it is there should have been a mask or a muzzle. Because it's like, oh, we're blind, we didn't see that, and they just turn the other way, is kind of the ironic part behind it. But yeah, it's a really important part because he's deeply entrenched in some key elements.
Yeah, and Soros, of course, another Wallenberg asset. He is the one financing on all levels of judges and so on that is running for campaigning for the post. So they have spread them out. They are everywhere. He's been in this game for a long time, or the Soros family has been in that game for a long time. Big financier of the the BLM and so all nefarious things you can find out, you will find them there. But neither him, Gates, or anybody that's or they are not homemade. They get some help. Then it's a good thing for the Wallenbergs to control the Nasdaq as well. Actually own the Nasdaq, and that is also the trading platform for all of the stock markets on a global scale. That's 150 stock markets. So you can easily make a billionaire overnight if you want to, if you can control the stock market like that. So with that said, I will have a new go. Otherwise, I will have to send that video to you, Jan, see if it works this time, because now we have Obama receiving his Nobel Prize and holding the speech. Hang on. Here we go. Nothing.
Oh, such a good lead up to. I was getting so excited.
Nothing.
Well, I'm gonna have one more. I need to remember there's happened some shit with my stuff here, and here we go.
Some shit with your stuff.
Yeah,
Matt, if you need to just put the video in the back channel, and I can grab it from there.
yeah. Maybe I find the post. You can grab it from there. But one more time, then I give up the sound for today. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, now it works.
Is anybody hearing anything?
No.
It's not working, Matt.
Maybe guys, maybe I have to turn on the mic to shut myself up. This might work the other way around. It could be that simple.
Oh, Matt, it's backwards.
Yeah, so it's backwards
That
again. It's a double backwards. It's like South
Yeah.
Park.
I wasn't even thinking about that because you're on a computer.
Yeah,
Yeah, everything is reversed.
yeah, this is crazy stuff. So okay, I give it one more go, but you can't hear me, but you're not supposed to either. So not in this case. Maybe that it could be that actually. Oh, I'm getting. Uh, it's getting a little bit frustrated, but yeah, let's give it a go. Um, let's give it a go. So now,
Matt, we can't hear it. Matt, we can't hear it. Can you hear me? Matt, we can't hear it.
Okay. I throw in the towel on that one. Maybe it actually is not going to work when the mic is upside down or inside out. But I think I had it working earlier, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to see if I can find the tweet. So it's getting easier for John to.
Matt, is it the video from when he's doing like kind of a public address about it?
Yeah, it's 32 seconds long, and I'm putting it up in the Nest right now, or in the Jumbotron right now. This is a strange story from Obama. You have it in most left hand in the Jumbotron. I found the original post, actually.
Okay, I got it. Give me a sec.
And while we are waiting for Jon, I might add also that if you wonder about it, these are the same build-up for the Obama administration is heavily supported, of course, by the Atlantic Council and the WEF. And the WEF is founded and created by Adolf H. Lundin, as in Lundin Oil, as in Lundin Mining. They have changed some name now. He passed away from illness just a little while ago. His wifey, she drowned in a very strange drowning accident. He's the founder, the true founder of the WEF. And of course, the Wallenbergs are business partners with Klaus Schwab's father during the Second World War. Actually, for the nuclear stuff, believe it or not, but machinery for rotational equipment that is very critical when you do that kind of work and research, but also in the manufacturing when you actually going to weaponize the uranium discovered by dear Mr. Birkeland. Have you had any success, John? And see if Obama will. Yeah. Let's go for 32 seconds of Obama receiving his Nobel Prize. Hang on.
And his his love affair with Wallenberg.
Yeah. Deeply entrenched.
Homo.
Now, one of those whom Wallenberg saved later told this story. He was a young boy in hiding when they came for the women, including his mother. And my mother kissed me, he said, and I cried, and she cried, and we knew we were parting forever. But then 2 or 3 hours later, to my amazement, my mother returned with the other women. It seemed like a mirage, a miracle. My mother was there, she was alive, and she was hugging me and kissing me, and she said one word, Wallenberg.
Well, that's fascinating. She said one word, Wallenberg.
And Raoul Wallenberg, the second honorary citizen of the United States of America. That's and Biden is a young Biden, just as you heard a young Obama. That it's quite a while ago. This isn't it? So in 1981, he helps pushing in that secondary honorable citizen. So, I mean, these guys, this family, maybe they are, maybe this generation are twisting things back to something better. Could be, we don't know yet, but for sure, we are having, as the Snakemore video said, past proves future. And
Hey, Matt, I have it's about I don't know if you want me to play it. I have a 5-minute clip of the press conference that he gave that Obama gave that day, and he goes into a little bit about how he's addressing international affairs and different things like that. If you want me to play that, I could play it.
Before you play it, when was it from the press conference of?
Yeah, so this is the Norwegian Nobel Committee in his extraordinary efforts to strengthen international diplomacy and cooperation between people.
Okay, it's not a Nobel. It's what this one I have taken from the speech. Which is very long. It's not very long, but it's like 26 or 30 minutes. So, but that is the essence of it, you could say. Actually, the rest is more or less, the usual stuff. So, yeah, let's see what he said. I think I've heard it, but let's go, because everybody needs to listen into this guy. He's a powerful figure in the U.S. politics. So let's go for Obama press conference receiving the Nobel Prize. Here we go.
Yep, and this is October 2009. I'll share this in the Pill in the Nest for everybody as well.
I expected to wake up this morning. Well, this is not how I expected to wake up this morning. After I received the news, Malia walked in and said, Daddy, you won the Nobel Peace Prize, and it is Bo's birthday. And then Sasha added, plus we have a 3-day weekend coming up. So it's good to have kids to keep things in perspective. I am both surprised and deeply humbled by the decision of the Nobel Committee. Let me be clear, I do not view it as a recognition of my own accomplishments, but rather as an affirmation of American leadership on behalf of aspirations held by people in all nations. To be honest, I do not feel that I deserve to be in the company of so many of the transformative figures who've been honored by this prize. Men and women who've inspired me and inspired the entire world through their courageous pursuit of peace. But I also know that this prize reflects the kind of world that those men and women and all Americans want to build. A world that gives life to the promise of our founding documents. And I know that throughout history, the Nobel Peace Prize has not just been used to honor specific achievement, it's also been used as a means to give momentum to a set of causes. And that is why I will accept this award as a call to action, a call for all nations to confront the common challenges of the 21st century. These challenges can't be met by any one leader or any one nation. That's why my administration's work to establish a new era of engagement in which all nations must take responsibility for the world we seek. We cannot tolerate a world in which nuclear weapons spread to more nations, in which the terror of a nuclear holocaust endangers more people. That's why we've begun to take concrete steps to pursue a world without nuclear weapons, because all nations have the right to pursue peaceful nuclear power, but all nations have the responsibility to demonstrate their peaceful intentions. We cannot accept the growing threat posed by climate change, which could forever damage the world that we pass on to our children, sowing conflict and famine, destroying coastlines and emptying cities. And that's why all nations must now accept their share of responsibility for transforming the way that we use energy. We can't allow the differences between peoples to define the way that we see one another. And that's why we must pursue a new beginning among people of different faiths and races and religions, one based upon mutual interest and mutual respect. We must all do our part to resolve those conflicts that have caused so much pain and hardship over so many years. And that effort must include an unwavering commitment to finally realize that the rights of all Israelis and Palestinians to live in peace and security in nations of their own. We can't accept a world in which more people are denied opportunity and dignity that all people yearn for. The ability to get an education and make a decent living. The security that you won't have to live in fear of disease or violence without hope for the future. Even as we strive to seek a world in which conflicts are resolved peacefully and prosperity is widely shared, we have to confront the world as we know it today. I am the commander-in-chief of a country that's responsible for ending a war and working in another theater to confront a ruthless adversary that directly threatens the American people out there for ending a war and working in another theater to confront a ruthless adversary that directly threatens the American people and our allies. I'm also aware that we are dealing with the impact of a global economic crisis that has left millions of Americans looking for work. These are concerns that I confront every day on behalf of the American people. Some of the work confronting us will not be completed during my presidency. Some, like the elimination of nuclear weapons, may not be completed in my lifetime. But I know these challenges can be met, so long as it's recognized that they will not be met by one person or one nation alone. This award is not simply about the efforts of my administration, it's about the courageous efforts of people around the world. That's why this award must be shared with everyone who strives for justice and dignity. For the young woman who marches silently in the streets on behalf of her right to be heard, even in the face of beatings and bullets. For the leader imprisoned in her own home because she refuses to abandon her commitment to democracy. For the soldier who sacrificed through tour after tour of duty on behalf of someone half a world away. And for all those men and women across the world who sacrifice their safety, and their freedom, and sometimes their lives for the cause of peace. That has always been the cause of America. That's why the world has always looked to America. And that's why I believe America will continue to lead. Thank you very much.
And then he bombs the shit out of how many countries?
7.
Oh my God, what a puke. This guy is just a puke.
Yeah, you can. He's very. He is good looking. He dresses fine. He talks very smoothly. He talks very fine. But what is he really? He's false.
He's not. He's not good looking. He looks like Michael's other member. There's nothing good looking about this guy. He's a snake. He is the snake more.
Maybe that's why Snake More is snaking more. Find out more snakes. Well, for this is like with the Nobel Prize. The most, let's say, boomers and older. When you talk to people, it's like, oh, they have so beautiful dresses and so on and so forth. That's like the Nobel Prize for the average Joe, so to speak. It's like crazy shit. I would like to hyper emphasize that Soros is sounding exactly the same, but he has also written it down actually in articles that he really admires Wallenberg and Raoul Wallenberg, of course, because and that story is debated what happened to him and what he did as well. So, but that is maybe we are getting to the last 10 minutes here, approaching 0017 here in the deep state headquarters of Mordor. So maybe we should just hold it there and see if we have any questions. There's a lot of material to read, both in the Jumbotron and, of course, in the purple pill. So,
Matt, real quick, I just want to add one last thing.
Yeah. We are not in a hurry.
Yeah, I just want to tie in Antifa because it's such a really important part that Soros plays a role in, as well as another reason why I was bringing up sovereignty. So all of the fires, all of the bombings, all of these things, the pushed, forced narratives of the media, which has been weaponized, and who controls the media, who owns the media via on the state level here, stateside, the bar. Because in the manner of, quote, freedom of speech, right, in a democratic press, this is how they gain control of everything, right? So their narratives they push because they want to have more and more attachments on us. Instead of us removing them, right, we accept them. Like Matt, you said before, we're responsible for some of this too if we allow these things to become attached to us. So they're removing sovereignty from us. And that's why they change how they use sovereignty to make it appear as if they're for it, right? So what do? Then they have these agendas, which, Antifa was one of them. We should have been partying in the streets in certain manners because of land rights around that same time that were given to us. But no, the BLM was perverted, and turned into Black Lives Matter instead of the Bureau of Land Management. Oh, weird how that works. And here comes Antifa, paid by George Soros, who also donated, well, I know here in Wisconsin, by the way, he gave $1 million in his efforts.
Oh, it never stops with that kind of pocket money. But let's see if I find my Project Veritas did a good job of trying to show to the let's say the US population what's behind Antifa, but they don't go all the way, and that is exposing it for what it is. So the Swedes that actually went to the United States to implement Antifa, Victorine son, hard to pronounce in English. They were deported. They were thrown out of the U.S. There were some others as well, but Veritas did a good job on exposing Antifa actually, or the Swedes that implemented it. So some businesses they have to take care of like that. This goes like for Tucker Carlson, but not the Tucker Carlson you think. There is another Tucker Carlson that was very involved in the Hollywood era in the beginning. And I'm searching for my own tweet. Maybe. Yeah, there we go. Oliver Tucker Carlson. He was a member of the Young Communist League, and he was placed in Hollywood. That's why you see all of these Volvo cars in all the Hollywood movies. I would say that's a legacy thing, more or less. But there is quite a story around him. And of course, you need an ordinary divide and conquer with the commie thing. So interesting fellow. From Gotland, from Visby, actually, I think he was. And that is also where the Admiralty Law has its origins, on that little unsinkable carrier in the middle of the Baltic Sea. Hopefully we have some of our great listeners that will have a question or something to add or whatever, because now we are getting into the wrapping up.
Matt, a little trivia question for you. And yes, please, if anybody has any questions or just wants to add some input or comments to any things that we've talked about, please request a mic and we'll bring it up. But a little trivia, are you aware of the significance of not only Butler, but Pennsylvania itself, and what they were trying to send a message to because of Pennsylvania?
No, not really.
That is actually, and in many ways still is, established by via post the original states of the Union.
The postmaster, the Swedish postmasters. Yeah.
So that's,
I get it.
So Pennsylvania is the original jurisdiction of the states of the Union, and also Pennsylvania is the original capital. That is the location of the states of the Union and the original capital of the unincorporated states.
Yay! And now I do remember, because it was originally in the way in the Axel Oxenstierna era. It belonged to New Sweden, so it was a colony for the Swedish Empire. That's why it's blue and yellow. Of course, I forgot that, and they put the postmaster thing there instead of Delaware. Now I remember.
Exactly.
Now I remember. Yes, of course.
Yep.
Yes, of course.
And so it's been in Philadelphia, has been absolutely decimated. But somebody was actually, I saw a video of Lindsay. She was on a train driving through, and it's sad. It's so sad. It is literally all boarded up. I mean, it's like Antifa itself literally nuked the whole entire city. But that's just because it's been slowly declining. But it's really sad to see. But now you know why, right? They want to remove any possibility of original standing of our country.
Yeah, I get it. Probably, if I just this I don't know, but I'm gonna make a qualified guess. The second state after Delaware becoming the first state is most likely Pennsylvania. If you check the history books.
Does anyone have a question or a comment? You can grab a mic.
Yeah. Look here. I found it. I just had to check it. Pennsylvania became the second state to ratify the U.S. Constitution. Oh my God. Blue and yellow. Play P1, P2, blue and yellow. It's going to be fun.
It's all making sense now, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're rolling it back.
Yeah.
And that's really the takeaway with all of these Supreme Court rulings. I was in a place that I thought, we could just literally abolish it and start over. But the thing of it is, when you research enough, you realize that the original standing of our country is very, very actually well established. It's just not publicly perceived a certain way, if that makes sense. So the key important part here for us as the people of not only this country, but nations that we have relationships with, in trade and all sorts of things, we have to recognize that there's nothing wrong with what was established. And so we've been rolling back a lot in undoing what has been done. That's why it's so important that we correct these issues, right? We correct the things that were wrong. And it's been a slow, arduous, excruciating at times process. But I hope that paints a little better picture of, what's going on as well on our end, because what has been done has to be undone as well. And so things aren't just going to go away because we're yelling and protesting. No, we literally have to then go to all forums and all levels of government and implement, by us taking action, corrective measures, completely removing elements such as Roe v. Wade, which is all about states' rights, by the way, and not so much about abortion. It all has to do with states' rights. That's when, during the I call it the geriatric show, during the debate with Poopy Pants Biden and Trump, it was said like 4 or 5 times, the power has to go back to the states and the people. And ironically, they were actually both in agreement of that one fact itself. But the key is, we the people have to be the ones to do it. His first address to the nation in his first presidency, Trump said, "I am giving the power back to you. The power is now invoked into the American people." Okay? That was the action in an act, in an address to the states and the people. That was his declaration to us, which means then we have to get off our ass and get to work. We have to be the ones to remove these people. Now, we do it obviously in a peaceful manner. But if they're not doing their job as our employees, we have to remove them, right? We have to do everything we can to keep our power, if you can keep it, right? The republic. So, we're not only serving notice, but we're also implementing action on a Supreme Court level, on a state Supreme Court level, on a county level, and on a municipality level, because all of the federal overreach is now completely officially removed because of the Chevron overturning. And it not only piggybacked on the fact that administrative entities are not government agencies and they have zero government authority and or control or power over the states or the people, but Chevron then called them out by name, which is massive. So it's a 1-2 punch in state and federal level. Top down, bottom up, hit him in the gut, right? So here's the boxing match, and it was kind of the really, really heavy hit piece that really kind of then not only overturned a lot of the, deep, dark rooted elements of Obamacare and what he did overall, but he gave the power back to us. It's just up to us now to enforce the power that was vested back into us as peaceful, private non-combatants in a public capacity. And that's really as simple as it gets. We just have to stand up and we have to know the process and remove them if they're not doing their job. Hold them accountable.
Does anyone have a question or a comment? Please grab a mic. John, it's all of Pennsylvania that's a hot mess? Or just Philadelphia?
Pennsylvania.
Is all I didn't catch the first part. Is all of Philadelphia what?
Of all of Pennsylvania or just Philadelphia? Well, like you said, it was on fire and stuff, or torn down.
Oh, yeah, it's war torn. It wasn't literally on fire, but it was. I mean, everything is barricaded, blocked up. There was zero activity. It was, it was so disheartening and sad to see. But it's one of those things that can be overturned, right? Like we have an opportunity here, and we're going to be shortly hearing. Let's just say about some big implementations that are going to be public disclosure of sorts, and to just really quite frankly sum it up, don't buy in obviously to the garbage that's trying to be pushed. You know who the peoples that are involved that you don't want anything to do with, so don't listen to any of their nonsense, because it's just quite frankly that it has no validity. Don't accept it. There's no reason to, because we've taken full back control, even on the banking end, even on and to be honest with you, it actually is a lot further back, even to the extent of we've had the deep dives, obviously, on the East India Company going weeks back, literally to that inception point. A lot of things that have been done were to bring back trade and to remove the crown's overreach in things of commerce nature. And once again, all roads lead to Rome in that context, because the installation of their puppet master, controlled by various forms, is a Jesuit himself. So he's not a true pope, who's supposed to be in charge of ecclesiastical law of keeping all of these commercial organizations and all these public private things in line. And if they don't, under ecclesiastical law, they're supposed to be liquidated. Watch the water, liquid. Get it? So, the element of liquidation is the only key piece that, they really want to stop us to know how to do. Because when you hit them in their pocketbook, which is the only thing that's keeping them alive in a matter of operating in their ways, is when you're going to remove the ability of them to do any harm. And that's what we have to do. We have to, press claim and liquidate them and get them out of office, get them out of these, power grab opportunities. So I know that was kind of a little bit of a tangent and it took it, big picture, but it's important because the fact of the federal overreach, because of the fact of what I was saying before with HBO, of this is literally how deeply intertwined and connected it is. Okay, it is because of the international gateway, which is the front door via the UN headquartered in New York, New York, the fourth, possibly fifth element to not only a city state but a city, right? New York, New York. Now the international gateway of commerce and corruption. So now you have the front door entry, and the back door entry is probably through, I don't know, California of sorts, which Obama, by the way, sold off in different ways to China and made various attempts of different things, but it was in layers. That's my point, Tish. Like it's layers. It's not anything that's physically changed. It is the layers of ownership and control. And they don't give us full and clear disclosure about it. So when you hear of California, you just think, well, yeah, I live in California. No. There's the California Republic, the state of California, California state. I'm sorry, what? Yeah, there's differences. It's true. Look it up. It's fact. So they do this in a deceptive nature. Philadelphia is still holding strong. The fact that the Post, in its capacity of lawful jurisdiction, is established and still operational is the saving grace of this country, in part. It is not just Philadelphia, but this is why certain areas, Philadelphia being part of the Commonwealth, by the way, and can't forget the brotherly love aspect, right? What? Wait a minute. Brotherly love? I thought that was like hug your brother sort of context. Really remember the brotherhood and how that plays a role into things. So once again, Holly Weird mixed in with their sprinkling of the club in every element, way, shape, and form, with the private public partnership aspect of commercial usurpation and overreach of none other than the IMF and Bank of International Settlements, owned and controlled by we all know who. So here we go again, and now it comes full circle. So I don't know. I hope I answered your question. I hate to just leave it at a simple answer sometimes because it's really important to make these connections.
No, you sure did. It's all intertwined. I mean, it's the city of brotherly love. Wow, like every aspect seems to hit on hit on something important. It's unbelievable. HPF.
Yeah, just wanted to add some context to the bar attorney part. When I first met John, and we kind of came together and had some conversations, I couldn't believe I couldn't believe that the law enforcement was just purposely doing what they do, and how could they be so captured? How could there be such a problem there? And then when you draw it all the way back to the bar attorneys in the small towns, the bar attorneys run the town. Okay, they tell the selectmen what to do. They tell the police chiefs what to do. So it's really not that hard to control all of law enforcement if you have the bar attorneys, chirping in the ear of all the different departments at any given time. It what it comes back to in the law enforcement side is, oh, that's just politics, don't worry about it. But what happens is, a law gets, broken here, a law gets broken there, and everything gets, chalked up to politics, and all of a sudden you're in complete tyranny and you don't know what ends up. And then I go back to the academy part where, you go to the police academy and then you get the in-service training for a week every year. And what they do is they just keep teaching you what they say is constitutional law, but it's actually case law, so it's not constitutional law. So between the the bullshit of the bar attorneys controlling what goes on and what cases go forward, and the usurping of the education, so that the officers don't know, because it's not that the cops are stupid. Most of them, pretty intelligent. It's just that when you go to school, you don't expect that you have to vet your teachers before you take the class. You know what I mean? You're hoping that the curriculum has been approved by the highest level, and you're getting the best education possible. So it's really intricate. When you look at how this was all rolled out, it is like Dr. Evil. Like you, is brilliantly done, but so evil because it's just put into the culture of all these institutions. And once you get it in the culture, it's literally impossible to get out. And then you have the fact that people don't want to admit that they were fooled. So you got roughly a million law enforcement running around the US, and they have no idea that they're completely been fooled and try to unravel that mess. Crazy.
Yeah, that it sure is crazy. Yeah, John, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I got gravy and chicken on my fingers here. I'm trying to like pinky my my microphone button. Joe, thank you for bringing that up. It's such a great point. And you and I have had multiple conversations about this, and you know, here's the truth. We have to come to a place, all of us collectively. It doesn't matter. We have to recognize that everything right now is the same. It's all done under the same uni meaning one element. It's all one big international, global, and I played it twice, by the way, when Obama said, well, I'm not going to go there, but anyways, that guy's such an asshole. Ugh, I can't stand him. Anyways, so, everything is under this UCC umbrella, which is the here we go again, commercial code. All things on earth are under commerce. We've been collectively, as people, captured commercially. Public, private interests, right? Because they want to make you believe that the incorporated way is the only way. There's no other options. Well, of course, they're not going to tell you the other option, which is the other side. It's against their best, quote, interest. Oh, wait, you mean interest-bearing account, like interest on a bond, like as in the public interest? Oh yeah, that interest. So when, the club members are in the matter of case number in the best interest of the public, they're talking about the state public indentured trust interest as in interest-bearing account. So it's all a financial game. It's all about balancing the books, because here's the deal. When you go into court, they're not asking you if you did it or you didn't do it, because that's why they use guilty and not guilty, because do you feel bad or do you not feel bad is what they're asking. But more importantly, the citation by definition is something that already occurred, right? So it already happened. It was found to be done, right? So they create the negative, right? And you have to balance the books to a positive. So they create the harm, they create the negativity, they create these things. When is enough enough? When is blaming, right, the teachings going to stop to the point to where nothing is done? It's just the way it's always been. And that's the problem we've come up against, right? That as a whole, as people, we have to hold everybody accountable to the point to where they can't hide behind this. And here is why. We're living, I don't know if anybody's seen the movie Snowpiercer, but it's the train movie, a post-apocalyptic world that's been frozen over and so on and so forth. And it's the train, it's the never-ending engine, right? Well, then you see the child actually stuffed in the bottom of the floor, because one of the parts broke. So the disgusting nature behind that is how they create the debt and the wealth in one fell swoop, at the birth of every child. That's why it's about the children also. It's about us being children at one point in time that were hijacked. We didn't just get in line for the train. We grew up in Auschwitz, okay? That's the truth. We're in the concentration camps, and we need to break free, starting with our minds of the level of indoctrination of the layers. Yes, it's a lot and it's obnoxious, but we don't have to take part if we don't choose to. And so it's really, really important that we all are aware that the system as a whole are captured. And yes, there may be good people, but it is also not our fault if these good people, because they decide not to take action, do harm unto us. Why? So they get to hide behind some entity or organization or company? No. That's not how this works. Okay? So if the administrative realm of things, which by the way, administrative, right? Like it has no governmental authority or powers over the states and the people,
Okay.
that sort of thing. Yeah, we have to remove it, and we have to change it, and that's where we're at. So it's deep, it's intertwined, but the good thing about it is if we can get ourselves to a place of little tools, little templates, little wins, right? We can make massive changes collectively to help the greater good of all humanity.
Yeah, and it is Admiralty law as well. We are putting commerce, so we are speaking that out loudly and clearly. Out of Visby, that unsinkable carrier, Gotland Island, wherever. There could be it is a sort of a holiday resort, so yeah. Anyways, I think we wrap it up there. I'm trying to find my the Antifa exposure by Veritas. I actually found something else that was quite fun, actually. I'm going to put that one in the purple pill. In 2020, of course, not getting a reply on it, so I just took a screen dump. James O'Keefe, the 10th of December 2020. Who/what should Project Veritas expose next? And I answer him, the Wallenbergs, please. It's in the purple pill. Yeah, that's just for your amusement. So that one I could find when I was seeking out Veritas, but it is not working at all. The X app is really messing up right now.
Yeah, him and I are going to have a little chit chat one of these days. Good old Jamesy boy, when he was with Veritas at that time, and I look back and there's a good possibility that it was internal infiltration, if anything, or whatever the case is. But this was about 2.5 years ago now. I had a whole timeline and layout of not only the financial fraud, but the inception points in different areas for the trafficking of children. And it was specifically laying out two big parts of HHS and CPS, but also on the borders then. And how even the Border Patrol and ICE lose the abilities to do things because of international interference, using, of course, foreign multinational corporations. And they said, after multiple conversations and email exchanges and so on and so forth, we probably wouldn't be interested in taking anything like this. So
believe it or not,
thank you.
Believe it or not, John, I found it. So this is a hard point. We got Antifa in the US. Everybody knows it. We got Soros financing Antifa. We got Daniel Sachs controlling Soros and the Open Society Foundation. And Soros has his whole banking in the SEB since the get-go. He met Raoul Wallenberg in Budapest when he was a young lad doing nefarious stuff to survive or something like that. And what Wallenberg was doing there was probably a little bit nefarious as well. The connections, that is a big story in itself, so we are not going to jump down in that. But he had some associates that from secret services, both at that time it's not called the CIA, it's the OS. I can't remember right now. I'm tired, but anyways,
The OSS,
the
right?
OSS, yes. So I'm saying it correctly, but the OSS with the headquarters, of course, in Switzerland, just next door to the nefarious Bank for International Settlements. But that's not so strange because Dulles, that is running the OSS, is a childhood friend with McKittrick running the Bank for International Settlements. And what is the common smallest denominator for these guys? Well, it's Wallenbergs, because they are friends with them as well. You
No.
cannot make shit like that up. And who created the Bank for International Settlements and the League for Nations and the beginning of the NATO and the Third Reich and the Russian revolutions, and provided Iran with nuclear weapons, provided the Manhattan Project with nuclear weapons, provided Israel together with some US friends, and of course North Korea together with Rumsfeld, who accidentally worked at the ABB at home while they were doing that between his Bush administrations, where he was the Secretary of Defense in both of them, both Senior Bush and Junior Bush. And believe it or not, Senior Bush's father, Prescott Bush, was a friend of the Wallenbergs and financed the Third Reich Project together with Henry Ford. And they were also sitting in the American IG, and they were, of course, friendly with the Swedish IG, and, of course, with the SEB. And believe it or not, they were running the fucking IG Farben together with the Warburgs that also started the Fed. And they are married into each other on all kinds of ways, forth and back, and so on and so forth. And the Titanic/the Olympic had to submerge for the Fed to emerge. And Woodrow Wilson, just like Obama, got the Nobel Prize for signing off that one. The merchant of that prize. Boom.
Boom. And Mott, don't forget that as part of Operation Paperclip, when Bush Sr. Came over, the name changed and went from Sharoff to, because at that point Prescott was also in, this is where the Nikola Tesla connection comes in with different elements because of like science labs that they were in original partnerships with different things. And there's actually a publication that Tesla put out stating that he was talking about this little hellion running around. He was referring to Herbert Walker Bush, which at the time was Sharoff prior to Operation Installation of Paperclip and the name change to Bush. But here nor there, this is where the SS connection also comes in because he was active not only with the German SS, but with the implementation with Paperclip and Nassau into the OSS.
Yeah, of course. And that is sort of, you could say that it started with Oxenstierna. That is a lie, but you have to choose a starting point for the modern variant of this. So it started with Oxenstierna and the East India Company. The East India Company was the 1776 revolution. It was to get rid. It was a war against the East India Company. Full stop. And the East India Company is created by the Viking crown. Elizabeth I gives them the grants, and the first central bank, the Swedish one, and then the second is the British one with inside the city of London, sort of a Viking thing as well. And the city of London, the Vatican, and DC works pretty much the same, and Switzerland and Sweden works pretty much the same as those three as well. So there we go. There we have it all set up and ready in a nice little package to go when you talk to your friends, because that's the way it actually is. The rest that we see here in the news, in the movies, or wherever, it is smoke and mirrors. With that said, Tish, Secretary John, thank you very much. This has been a delightful evening. I hope you listeners that are hanging in here are bringing some of this information with you guys to whoever you meet. And sorry for this quick rant, the last one. I got a little bit inspired or carried away. But it is what it is. And well, Tish, you can cut that one out and send to me so I can remember what I was saying. I will cut that from the recording. I went a little bit ballistic there, but anyways, Antifa exported from Sweden. You have it up there. Soros is financing, controlled by Daniel Sachs, and Daniel Sachs is married into the Wallenberg family. And that goes then for the VEF and for all of this. You know, there is a common smallest denominator here. Always. Isn't that strange? And that is the denominator, the family, that none of the big accounts dare to mention. They are cowards. Thank you very much for today.
No, thank you. Please follow all the speakers on top. And please, we reconvene on Thursday, next Thursday at 4:15 Eastern. We'll see you there. Please follow everybody on the top, and we'll see you then. Have a great day. Thanks, guys.